Welcome to the Curious Platypus. I'm Michael Edward, and today's piece is titled The Chronic Pain Series, Part 4. Recovering from my back injury was kind of like the hallucinations that punctuate an acid trip. Everything came in waves. There were moments when I felt like I was making progress, moments when nothing seemed to be changing, and moments when I got dropped into a pit of despair. 3 months into my physiotherapy program, I fell into a pit. One of the exercises triggered another spasm. That fucked me up. It hurled me into another week-long saga of bed-ridden agony. It threw all of the work I'd been doing with the physio into question, and it put me on the back foot in this fight against the pain. By now, I'd come to think of the pain as a sort of entity. It wasn't just this sensation that gnawed at me. In my mind, it had become its own force, a foe I had to constantly fight against just to remain sane. And up until then, the physio had been my main defense against it. But with that defense breached, my inner turmoil threatened to take hold. The physio told me that having another back spasm was perfectly normal. She said it was just a hiccup and that I shouldn't let it get me down. Too late, I thought. Dialing back my exercise program, she said that we have to take things even slower. I think she could see that my confidence was faltering because she offered more assurance than normal. I appreciated her reassurance, and I also believed what she was saying, and so I did everything she said. However, that little hiccup scared me enough that I wasn't about to leave anything to chance. It was time to throw the kitchen sink at this thing. Over the next few months, I sought other treatments while continuing to do the physio exercises. I saw an acupuncturist who poked me with needles and pointed at me with lasers. I saw a chiropractor who moved me in all sorts of ways that cracked my back and hips. I saw a deep tissue masseuse who kneaded and massaged my muscles. I saw a specialized sports doctor who sent me to do hydrotherapy, which is essentially just physiotherapy in Speedos. And I even saw a ventriloquist who, nah, I'm just messing with you. Besides, puppets are terrifying. With each new person I saw, I started to feel like a broken record. There was something so disheartening about telling the same story over and over, as if the more I said it, the truer it became, and the more it solidified my position as a victim who was looking to others to fix me. The longer this went on, the more I began to hate telling my story. It made me feel weak that I couldn't overcome this on my own. It made me angry that I'd let it get this far. And it made me sad to acknowledge how my life had shrunk to nothing more than fighting against this invisible force. Many of the treatments I tried provided some degree of relief, but the ache always returned. I did my best to give each treatment as much time as I could, as I knew that 2 or 3 sessions wouldn't be enough to see any real progress. But beyond the fact that none of them delivered any long-lasting improvement, another factor had come into play. The growing cost of all these treatments was taking a toll on my bank balance, which was never very big to begin with anyway. This bothered me to no end. I mean, pain is so all-encompassing that it penetrates the deepest parts of who you are. It inflicts chaos on a primal part of you, a part way more innate than any of the bullshit constructs of society. And yet, here I was, stuck in a system where escaping this pain had a price tag. Eventually, I found myself in the office of some Chinese back specialist. That dude was interesting. He wanted to see the color of my tongue, which was something new. He also offered completely conflicting information to what my physio had been saying. He told me to stop doing all my exercises and essentially do nothing other than keep my core tight with the use of breathing exercises. He explained that everyone's rib bones are much closer to their hip bones than we realize, and that all the exercises and moving we do leads to rib-hip impingements, where the muscles are squished in between the bones, and that's what causes the pain. Conceptually, I understood what he was saying, but it felt counterintuitive to stop doing my exercises and just do nothing. Not only that, but what about when I started skating again? Wouldn't the same issue just crop back up? And why did it take until I was 29 for this problem to manifest if I've always been moving around, supposedly causing this impingement? That specialist's opinion raised more questions than answers. It also opened another can of worms. I was receiving conflicting information. Some people were telling me to stretch and exercise. Others were telling me to stop all the exercises and stretches. Some people were telling me acupuncture was the cure. Others were saying deep tissue massage. And others swore by chiropractic adjustments. All this conflicting information led to confusion and frustration, which exacerbated a feeling I'd been trying desperately to fight against: hopelessness. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who was right. Everything I'd done so far hadn't exactly worked, so maybe the Chinese specialist was right. And if he was, and I ignored him, then I'd be doing myself more damage. But if he was wrong, then I could be undoing whatever progress I'd made with the physio. Same with the other treatments. I didn't know which one was best for me. All I knew is that everyone was saying different things, and surely they couldn't all be right, right? Concerns like these swirled around in my head day and night, and all this conflicting information made me realize that there was no straightforward way out of this problem. Worse still, if I went with the wrong treatment, there was a possibility I could be making things worse. It was terrifying. It seemed the pain had me on the ropes. It was pummeling me from all angles. There was my sanity. I remember the day I screamed at the pain out of some sort of hopeless frustration. Its relentlessness was so draining. I also remember making plea deals with a deity I'm not even sure I believe in. There were the ridiculous stories I'd started telling myself, like, none of these specialists want me to get better because the longer I pay for treatments, the more fucking money they make. And of course, there were the forever stories, like, this pain is never going to go away, and skating's over for good. There was the hole skating had left in my life. Riding that plank of wood had been my way of clearing my head and letting out my pent-up frustration, and without it, I didn't know how to cope. I also didn't know where to turn to find joy, as I'd always relied on skating for that. There was the perpetually low mood. I felt tired, defeated, and apathetic. I got to a point where nothing felt worth it. I had lost faith in any treatment helping, and I couldn't bear to tell my story again just to be bombarded with more conflicting information. There was the ruminating. I couldn't stop thinking about the pain. I couldn't ignore it, distract myself from it, or see any way out of it. There was the isolation. I didn't want to bum people out by complaining. It felt too hard to pretend like everything was okay. And I didn't want to hear anyone's well-meaning suggestions like, you should try a heat pack, or you've got to focus on your posture, as if after more than 10 months of this shit, I hadn't tried such obvious things. And, of course, there was the physical sensation of the pain itself, that ever-present entity that gnawed at me night and day. The pain was like the cold in the depths of winter. It was so piercing it left me numb. To be continued.